The year is 2007. Arc System Works has just recently become the victim of what we in the industry like to call business. They had worked with a company called Sammy to publish their hit series Guilty Gear in arcades and on home consoles. However, Sammy recently just merged with a little-known indie company called Sega to create Sammy Sega Holdings. And because of this deal, Sammy shoved all of the video game IPs they had over to Sega in order to focus on their true passion: pachinko. Story then goes that since Sega was withdrawing from the home console market and becoming a third-party developer, they weren't as willing to experiment with niche titles. Your development team wasn't called Sonic Team, you weren't doing anything weird. So, ArcSys wasn't a subsidiary of Sega, they were their own company. So instead of getting them to make a new fighting game, apparently, Sega came to them and said, listen, the fighting game market's dying, it's a bit of a risk, how about you make something else? Something with a bit more substance, something that appeals to a wider audience. And because of that exchange, we now have Guilty Gear 2 Overture. At least that's the story I was originally told. You see, I'm a little bit stupid, so I've learned to fact check everything that I hear from anyone at this point. This includes origin stories about a game from 2007 that I have zero intention of playing. Because of this, there's a fact that some people just gloss over when it comes to this era of Guilty Gear. Yes, Arc System Works did lose the rights to Guilty Gear X and Guilty Gear XX. However, because of the deal that they had, they only lost the unique traits of the Guilty Gear X and XX series. If it was in another Guilty Gear game, ArcSys still owned it, meaning the original Guilty Gear characters were all theirs. Well, it seems that way. We don't know the actual agreement between Sammy and Arc System Works. We just know that Sammy owned the right to the XX characters, and because of that, things got a little bit weird. Also, a lot of this is guesswork after playing Overture, and even then there's things in the game that should technically not be owned by ArcSys, but are. But it raises a point. ArcSys worked within the limitations that they had in order to make this game, meaning Sega didn't tell them to make Guilty Gear 2. Daisuke wanted to make Guilty Gear 2. This was not something that was made out of ignorance or a misunderstanding of what Guilty Gear was. Daisuke wanted this game to happen. He directed this game. This game follows Daisuke's vision. Upon finding out that no one forced Arc System Works to make this game, I suddenly had a spike in curiosity, and I had to play it for myself. So, let's talk about Guilty Gear 2 Overture. But first, gamer subs. It's green. It's probably not working well with the green screen. I could show you what my what the setup looks like. Hold on. Look how scuffed this shit is. Anyway, gamer subs. The energy drink replacement with waifu cup branding that tastes absolutely amazing and is better for you than an average energy drink. This shit's got no sugar. It's keto friendly. It's got like actual good caffeine in it, whatever the fuck that means. And it doesn't make you crash. I use this shit to get through my workday basically every day, and it helps me make amazing videos. Flavor I'm drinking right now, which you can't see, is Guacamole Game of Fart, my favorite. However, there's a couple of other good flavors. You can see them scrolling beside me now. I'd point them out, but I've got a couple of new ones that I want to try, and some of them look really nice, but, you know. They also have waifu cups, if you're into that. They're really good to drink the things out of, and some of them look nice. There was one that they made recently that was like a lumberjack, and I really wanted it. I didn't get it. I'm kind of upset, but some of them are really cool. That's my point. So go to gamersubs.gg/he'sgecking to get 10% off of any order on the site. Yes, I did just change shirts. Don't worry about it. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this game, and while I think going through the entire competitive history would be fun and a good use of my time, I've decided instead I should follow the story through, as it hits most of the beats that I want to talk about. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a video where I tell you the whole plot of the game and pretend that I reviewed it. Mainly because I don't understand the plot. The game starts with the titular Guilty Gear Sol swinging his sword around in the middle of the night next to a sleeping 5-year-old. This acts as the tutorial of the game, and the first thing that we learn is, holy shit, these voice actors are different. The English dub of Guilty Gear 2 is filled with very well-known and respected voice actors. Sol Badguy is voiced by Troy Baker, Kai's voice is Liam O'Brien, Valentine is Wendy Lee, and Sin is fucking Yuri Lowenthal. All of the voices in the English dub are recognizable talent by ear alone. The weirdest thing about this is that the Japanese dub uses the voices of the characters that we know today. Obviously, some of the characters haven't returned, but Sol, Kai, and Sin all retain their voices throughout the coming games. To be fair, can't really fault Arxis for this one. Dubs back in 2007 were a little different, a little less respected. This was 2 years after the Ghost Stories dub. We should be thankful that we got an accurate translation with good voice talent. The voice acting is fine. It's got that early to mid-2000s anime goofiness to it, where everyone's kind of overemphasizing their lines, but I personally find it charming, but your mileage may vary. If you're a coward. After this beautifully voiced scene, it swiftly takes us to the combat tutorial, as Sin wants to run Sol through some drills because, well, the game needs a combat tutorial. And this is where we find out that this game is in fact an action game. Now, some of you may know, I'm a bit of a character action enjoyer, a bit of a DMC fiend, a bit of a Bayonetta observer, near Automata joke. Show me a cool combo from a game and I'll start blasting like there's no tomorrow. The whole reason that I got into fighting games in the first place is because these combat systems, apart from wanting to prove to my friends that I'm better than them at something, are fucking sick. However, being an enjoyer of action games means that I'm very critical of games in the genre. I have been to the peak of the mountain. I know what a good action game looks like. And I know what absolute filth looks like. I tried Zenless Zone Zero, and I mean I tried. And I hated it so much that I took 2 months out of my life to make a video just on defense mechanics in character action games. Didn't even do that well. I do not enjoy character action games. I do not like character action games. I love them. So hear me loud and clear when I say the combat systems in Guilty Gear 2 Overture are... Alright. I've played worse. It's not the best, but, you know, it's passable. It does a good job. It's functionally a stripped-back Soul Calibur, funnily enough, with characters using horizontal and vertical attacks to hit their opponents. Horizontals obviously hit around you, making it harder to sidestep, and verticals make it so that you can't jump. Each character has 2 sets of normal attacks being toggled by locking on to the enemy character. So if you're not locked on, you do a more sweeping AoE attack, and if you are locked on, you do a more focused vertical attack. The game has 2 attack buttons, one of them is for normal attacks, and one of them is for special attacks. You can get different strings by combining the different moves. So XXXX is going to have a different ender from XXXY. Funnily enough, it's very similar to how Bayonetta does their combos. However, it's much more stripped back, and there's a lot less room to improvise. You can't start with a special attack. If you try to, you'll just get a special move, assuming you have enough tension. Guilty Gear players will instantly recognize these special moves because, well, they're the special moves that the characters have been using for years. Sol has Gunflame, Bandit Revolver, and Volcanic Viper. All of these are staples of his moveset that can be found in every Guilty Gear game. The game also has directional attacks. Pressing left or right will make you swing on either of the sides. Doing forward and back will give you different moves. Forward generally being a slide, and back generally being a launcher. For defense, your options are blocking and dodging. You can block by looking at your enemy and doing nothing, and you can dodge with the jump button. Jump technically counts as a dodge, but you can also hold left or right and you'll dodge to either side. Blocking only activates when your character is looking at the enemy, meaning if you're hit on either of your flanks or on your rear, you're gonna be taking damage no matter what. This can be used to your advantage though, since this system is universal. If you're able to slide around an enemy and hit them on their flank, they're going to be unable to block, basically making your attacks unblockable attacks. You can also activate a dodge out of a successful block. So if you know that your opponent is going to use a specific string that ends in a vertical, you'll be able to block, sidestep, dodge their attack, and now hit them for completely free. There's also a burst system where I remember the game saying the word burst. However, the wiki for the game says Cyclone Blast! For about 35% of your tension, you will burst out of a combo. There is also the modern cancel. She didn't just take the kids. She took all the fucking terms as well. 25% of your tension, and you instantly return to a neutral state, allowing you to get new combos and plus frames. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Okay, so, no, the game doesn't have frame advantage, so you don't get any more plus frames, you just instantly go to a neutral state. You cannot do a modern cancel on whiff, so if the opponent avoids your attacks, you're kind of fucked. There's no purple modern cancels here, buddy. I miss my wife, Sol. I miss her so much. The combat system may seem simple compared to other action games. Like, there's no parries, there's no multiple attack types, the string list is pretty short for each character, and there's not even like a devil trigger. Foreshadowing is a narrative device in which, but that's fine. This is still a multiplayer-focused game at the end of the day. The game gives you enough tools to have complex interactions between you and your opponent. You're not going to be doing crazy 90-hit combo strings. Maybe, I haven't actually seen any combo videos for this game. But there's enough here for you to be able to outplay your opponent. Also, it just makes sense. I love using Royal Guard and all the other bullshit in Devil May Cry. But if someone did this to me, I'd be fucking pissed. Plus, the combat system is just one piece that makes the whole pie in this game. Saying that made me realize we've got a lot more to talk about. Dog, help me. After the tutorial, Sol puts Sin to bed the only way he knows how, and they continue on their quest to hunt gears for money. For those of you who know your Guilty Gear lore, this is set after the events of the X and XX games, but before the events of Xrd, meaning that Ino's kind of doing her bullshit, but everyone still hates gears, at least a little bit. In fact, this game actually acts as Sin's origin story, since before this we had no idea who he was. The duo end up in a small village where they find some strange-looking creatures. I don't mean your average American. Sin gets hit off screen by a Morgana Q from League of Legends, and we are introduced to the greatest Guilty Gear character you probably don't know about. Izuna is a spirit from the backyard. Or something like that. He's purposely vague about who he is. All you need to know is that he's a fox boy and he has the best voice direction out of anyone in this game.
No need to raise your voice, man. I'm on your side. That is a master ghost. It's a ghost that calls the servants forth. Damn, that was like crazy. You're just...
Those are mine?
And the thing back there, that's your master ghost. See, in other words, that's your soul itself, don't you know?
They're all weaklings.
It's not that easy, man.
Wait a minute. Take a look at that there.
Nice.
He's here to introduce us to the elements of the game that you probably expected me to talk about. I have to admit, I lied to you earlier. This game isn't an action game. It's a MOBA. Guilty Gear 2's main gameplay has you summon minions to fight across a large map in order to capture different objectives. The main goal is to go to the opponent's base, known as the Master Ghost, and destroy it. But unfortunately, it's not as easy as just running up and smacking it constantly. The base has a shield that protects it from your character's damage, meaning you have to get minions to go up and hit it for you. So how do you get the minions there? Easy! You walk them through the entire map while taking smaller objectives that have enemies underneath them and hit you if they're not attuned to you. Towers produce standard minions that will walk towards the closest tower adjacent to them, as well as healing any allies that are inside its radius. That includes you, by the way. They also generate mana. What is mana? Well, it's something that you need in order to operate the organ menu. But we're not quite there yet. Slow down a little bit, buddy. So you get the towers, you get your minions, you run it down mid, and you win. Easy, right? Well, this is a multiplayer game, meaning you're not the only one advancing on towers. Your opponents are as well. You need to make sure that you stop any pushes that your opponents do. Otherwise, they'll overwhelm you and take your Master Ghost. The easiest way to do this is simple. Kill all of the opponent's units. So you find the opponent's units, you kill them, you shove into different towers, you have your minions run it down mid, and boom! You win. Right? Oh yeah, it is easy. Until the maps start looking like this. This is small, by the way. Don't worry though, if you ask your doctor, they'll say that all map sizes are valid. Except for this one, because it's got 3 fucking flank routes and a back door. Why? Eventually, Sol pushes back the mysterious units to their mother crystal, and they begin to retreat. And this is where we throw another gameplay style at you. Turns out I've been lying. My bad. This game is not an action game. It's not a MOBA. It's Crazy Taxi. Yeah. After murking lagoons, they fucking blow up, and we get everyone's favorite bit of world building. Vague bullshit that makes no sense. It turns out that these things are attacking Illyria, and Kai needs our help. So another Crazy Taxi mission later, and we find ourselves at the gates of Illyria. And this is where we're introduced to our main villain, Haruhi Suzumiya.
Hello.
This is where we get our true first taste of gameplay. There's still a couple of restrictions on us. Don't worry, we're not fully there yet. But this is the first time that we play a general match. On this 2-lane map, the objective is very simple. Push into Valentine's base and kill her Master Ghost. Sounds simple, but again, we've not unlocked all the functions of the game, meaning that there's a couple of roadblocks that we have to face. However, the game does teach you a super helpful technique here. You ever wondered while playing a MOBA why you can't just pick up your minions and drop them inside the enemy's base? Well, now you can. This means that after applying a little bit of brain power, I realized the best strategy was to find the one tower, or ghost, that connects to their Master Ghost, cut it off with my minions, and let them flood the rest of the map for me while I just beat the shit out of the enemy. And it worked really well. So well, in fact, that the game designers have accounted for this and have random minions spawn at set intervals. This just stops you from winning too fast. Thanks, Daisuke. Also, did I mention that I'm playing on hard mode? After, and I shit you not, an hour of trying to get this mission done, I finally defeated Valentine. We enter Illyria Castle and we find Kai fucking aura maxing in the middle of the room, and then Raven appears. And we take offense to that. This is our first boss fight. Kind of mid. Basically just a character battle with the added gimmick of a shit ton of projectiles everywhere. At least the song was good. Fake bullshit, terms that make no sense, Kai aura maxing in the middle of the room, XX copyright issues, and then we get another fight with Valentine. And finally, we have access to another gameplay mechanic. Would you believe me if I told you that I have once again been lying to you? This game is not an action game. It's not a MOBA. It's not Crazy Taxi. It's a fucking real-time strategy game. By pressing left on the D-pad, you will open the organ menu. I'll let you figure out if that's the instrument or a body part. In here, you're able to spend your mana in order to create new units. Each unit has its own specific type. There are 5 types of units in the game. The main 3 are melee, mobile, and armored. All of these work like a rock, paper, scissors match. Melee crushes mobile, mobile schmixes armored, and armored round start Kara busters melee. There's also ranged and magic units, which generally function as support types. Range fuck up melee and magic units. And magics are essentially just tank busters, dealing 500% damage against armored units. Fucking hell. Each character has their own set of units. I won't go over all of their names. However, the one that I didn't get to use, and I'm very sad about it, is Soul's magic unit known as Blockhead. It's a fucking square! In order to summon a minion, you need to form a contract with them first. This costs mana and requires a certain amount of time to be completed. Thankfully for you, one of your minions is always available at the start of a match. This means that you never have to start a match sitting on your ass for 2 minutes waiting for your mana to generate. You also have the ability to buy upgrades for your character, like a cooldown that increases your armor value, something that lets you summon minions right there, and sometimes foreshadowing is obvious. When you create units, you're able to send them to different points of the map to do different things. You can have them push down different lanes, defend specific objectives. That's kind of it. You're also able to merge units together into different groups to make moving them around a lot easier. So you can have different groups on different sides of the map, or you could have a giant mega cluster. I know a lot of people say that this game is a MOBA, and probably playing it against other people makes it feel like that, but having to plan out routes and strategies for my units to do feels like an RTS game, especially when you start taking into account how some units beat others. You can actually strategize around the types of units that you make. For example, armored units are fucking amazing at locking down an area, and it forces your opponent to invest in some magic if they want to be able to just get rid of your fucking armored units. The macro of the game is extremely important, and having a good strategy on how to handle everything that your opponent can throw at you is important. In theory. Listen, this might be true in the multiplayer, but in the single player, I've found that your opponents don't really do too much. Even while playing on hard mode, the enemy master would just sit at their Master Ghost and wait for me to approach them. Yeah, having to deal with their waves of minions was fucking annoying, but they felt more like a big unit I had to beat at the end of the road rather than a player character. I could see the vision though. I'll admit, getting to grips with the gameplay loop was a little bit annoying, especially because I'm not the biggest RTS guy, but I can see the vision, and I can understand how this could be fun. Also, most characters are just stronger than any units that they can summon, meaning that you can become the deciding factor in some fights. You can send a smaller group of units along a certain path, but if you go with them, they have a higher chance of not dying. This fight eases you into these concepts, allowing you to create the free base type units and have them push into Valentine. She also does not put up a lot of resistance. It's very easy to overwhelm Valentine in this fight. Compared to the previous mission where you just didn't have any units, this one's a fucking cakewalk. So, you go, you beat Valentine, she flirts with Sin for some reason, and then she disappears. And for the first time in the story, the party splits up. Sin is forced to stay back and look after Kai while he's fucking aura farming in his paladin bubble, while Sol and Izuna go to track down a group of gears that are apparently peaceful. And this is where we find Guilty Gear's biggest dickhead. Dr. Paradigm fucking sucks. You show up to his island. In the first conversation you have with him, Dr. Paradigm is racist. Granted, Sol was racist first, like, frame one. Calls him a bird. He fights you because peaceful gears. His units are fucking broken, by the way, and he flies around in his bubble doing sweet fuck all. This is all fine, if not a little bit annoying, until the next mission where you have to work with Dr. Paradigm. And if he dies at all, the mission is over. This would be fine, but Dr. Paradigm's combat abilities are... If he's called out and focused down, he's fucking useless. So surely, with the developers making him this way, you would expect them to make him sit under his Master Ghost and let all of his units do the fighting for him. Right? No! In fact, he's on the fucking front lines! There are 3 towers between his Master Ghost and him, and he's standing right on the edge. He also refuses to spawn any minions after his first couple die, and he won't even fall back if he's taking damage. Valentine will also airdrop minions onto him if you take too long, and they will just absolutely overwhelm him. Meaning you're put in a situation where you either push the main objective or send your forces to make sure this fucking pigeon doesn't die. This guy's fucking useless. Mission 8 genuinely made me just consider dropping the game. It was supposed to be the mission where you unlock all of your units and you finally begin engaging in the back and forth of units beating other types of units and those other types of units then beating other types of units. However, because you have to spend all of the time looking after Dr. Paradigm, it ends up being a clusterfuck. The best strategy that I found was to spam your normal units and bomb rush Valentine to make sure you kill her in less than 5 minutes. According to people in my Twitch chat, this is the preferred method of beating the mission. It's crazy. Back in 2007, when Defense of the Ancients was the only MOBA really on the market, they predicted the future by making it so my teammates are fucking useless and refuse to sit on the towers. After several hours and 2 separate streams just trying to beat this mission, I finally overwhelmed Valentine. This causes him to realize that we're not a bad guy, and he comes with us to Illyria to make sure that his units can help with the defense against Valentine. Honestly, after the display that he just showed, I think they're going to be more of a hindrance than a help, but we'll take whatever we can get. Before we can get there, though, we have to go into Izuna's pocket dimension, because all of his units have been taken over by Valentine's Red Bunny mind control. Honestly, I get it. We do this by using the Crazy Taxi movement system and going to different parts of the map to find hidden items to help break the mind control. The hidden items are shown to us by vague pictures narrated by Dr. Paradigm. This is your first time on the map, by the way, and some of the pictures look like this. And then they get bigger, and then it puts an arrow on them. The only problem is, this map is fucking huge. Putting an arrow on a picture of the map when I've never seen this area before doesn't fucking help. Like playing Counter-Strike and someone makes a call out, oh, they're over there. Where's there? Where? I fucking hate this dragon. We get back to Illyria. Kai is still aura maxing in his paladin bubble. I'm amazed the cooldown hasn't run out. And we have more vague bullshit thrown at us.
A variant of the Ouroboros loop.
We get to play as Sin, and despite being forced to beat the shit out of all these units, he somehow manages to get kidnapped. Paradigm sees the Maiden of the Grove in a crystallized state and comes to an extremely reasonable and sensible conclusion. He decides we need to fucking kill her. I hate this dragon. I hate this dragon. To this point, that Sin's origin story is revealed.
But I won't stand by and watch you kill her.
Don't miss the whole point, King. This matter affects far more than your organization. Don't tell me that you have somehow fallen in love with this gear.
That's right, I did.
Paradigm's units get brainwashed and they begin attacking the castle. Like I said, more of a burden than a help. And the group figures out that since Sin is the child of Dizzy, Valentine can just use Sin for the thing that she's been trying to do, because there's a cube in the backyard. I might have skipped over too many things in the plot. It's at this point, though, where we get back to another action scene. And I hate to admit this, but Guilty Gear 2 managed to do the impossible. They created a sequence where playing Kai is fucking awesome. Someone in the development team realized that they could use Holy Orders, Be Just or Be Dead, and they made sure they fucking used it. Holy shit! We're going to be skipping through a lot of the story here. There's a segment at the end that I really want to talk about. If you care about spoilers, it might be time to leave. I'm not going to be talking a lot about the lore, but I am going to be showing the final segments of the game. So, here's your exit point. You skip later in the video to hear what I think about the full game, but if you don't want to, there you go. You can leave. Thanks for coming around. Subscribe on your way out. Anyway, for the rest of us, Izuna and Sol find where Sin is being kept, and we actually get to play as Izuna at this point. And he has just the best audio direction ever. His soundscape when you're playing him is just beautiful. After a grueling mission, it turns out that Sin has been brainwashed and Sol needs to beat the shit out of him. Boss battle happens, child abuse, we pursue Valentine. Then someone on the development team obviously had the biggest rage for Kai because he shows up and gets another badass sequence in which you plow through hundreds of Valentine's forces. It's at this point where I lied to you again. The game's not an action game. It's not a MOBA. It's not Crazy Taxi. It's not even a fucking RTS. It's Dynasty Warriors now. Kai and Sin make up, kinda, and Sol is then tasked with getting into the backyard. How does he do this? Well, before they enter the portal that they found, that man shows up and starts fighting Sol. Because, fucking why not? And I know, I just admitted I lied to you again. But I have another confession to make. This game is not an action game. It's not a MOBA. It's not an RTS. It's not Dynasty Warriors. It's not fucking Crazy Taxi. The game is a shoot 'em up now. After a really annoying boss fight. I cannot express how much I fucking hate that fight. That man does his usual Tsundere Oppenheimer bullshit and gives us a spell that lets us survive the backyard. In the beginning, there was the cube. Yeah, I can't be arsed explaining this. Sin, Izuna, and Paradigm beat up Valentine while she's in her cool Chainsaw Man mech form, and Sol fucking nukes the cube. After successfully stopping Valentine's plan, she flies into a rage, and everyone tries to escape. Apart from Sol, who realizes he has some unfinished business he needs to take care of. I know, I just lied to you, and we're at the end of the game. There is no way they're adding another system. But I have a confession to make. This game is not an action game. It's not a MOBA. It's not an RTS. It's not Dynasty Warriors. It's not a bullet hell. And no, it's not Crazy Taxi. This game is fucking peak.
Mission start.
It's time.
I know I said I wouldn't go through the whole game, but I made that before I played this segment. I thought this game was a complete fucking mess. There's so many different systems that all just try to function with each other. If you wanted to be pessimistic about it, you could say that artists had a bunch of ideas and they forced them to work together. They put all of them next to each other and didn't think about how they'd interact. But that doesn't feel right, because it implies a lack of vision. It makes it sound like they didn't know what they wanted to do, so they threw everything they could at the wall. But playing the game, it doesn't feel like they didn't know what they were doing. There are clear and deliberate design decisions all across the board. Things all feed into each other. These aren't separate systems that you have to interact with on their own. They're systems that you work with as a whole. The action pieces help you clear more minions, which help you push down more lanes, which help you generate more mana, which helps you get more units to take over more parts of the map, so that you can then go to a different segment of the map and use your action sequences to destroy those other minions, to then push further through that part of the map to generate more mana. And your opponent can do the same thing. This game is not a mess. It's not a crisis. It's not something that shouldn't have been made. It's passion. There is effort put into every aspect of this game. Sure, the vague bullshit terms don't make sense to someone like me, but I'm sure someone knows what the Ouroboros loop is. Playing this game can feel frustrating and confusing, but it never feels half-assed. Anytime the game doesn't function as intended, it feels more like the developers were overambitious or someone made a fucking stupid design decision, but it never feels half-assed. It feels like they wanted to make something fucking amazing within the limitations that they had. Be that the budget, be that the fact that they lost access to most of their characters, be that the fact that they're tackling a genre that notoriously doesn't do well on consoles, they managed to make something that I think they were proud of. This game feels like it was trying to be a pioneer. But is it good, though? Listen, this is a very biased perspective. I am not a fan of MOBAs. I hate MOBAs. And I've never really gotten into RTS games. If a game requires me to think more than 2 interactions ahead, and it's not extremely simple to execute, I just can't be arsed. On the other hand, games that require executional skill and quick thinking are absolutely my shit. So, for me, I think the game would have been better and more enjoyable if it focused on the action segments. This ending sequence is fucking awesome. Running through a sea of blood while a banger of a song plays as you climb a giant mech to beat the ever-living fuck out of it is absolutely peak, if you ask me. But I understand this just isn't an action game. The limitations that are put on it mean that I can't enjoy this scene to the fullest because I end up doing the same combo a lot of times. But do I think there's things to enjoy here if you are a fan of MOBAs and RTS games? Yeah, honestly. Just the idea of being able to make my own super minions and push them down different waves is really cool, and I don't know why more MOBAs haven't done it. Adding more of the RTS elements back into the genre feels logical. It feels cool. I know some MOBAs have things like splitting characters into multiple different segments, but being able to have your own minions and have them go off and do the fighting for you is interesting, unique. It's a fun spin on the genre, and I'm kind of surprised more people don't talk about it in those fields. Well, okay, I'm not. It's a game that came out on the Xbox 360 and it looks like this. Listen, not everything was going for this game, okay? This isn't the best game I've ever played, but I had a good time. I think it's decent. And I genuinely, hand on heart, think if you're a fan of MOBAs and RTSs, you'll get a kick out of this game. Probably more in the multiplayer section. I've heard that there's a Discord server that just focuses on playing multiplayer matches for this game. I'll put the Discord somewhere down below if what I've talked about is interesting you in that side of the game. As for the campaign, maybe give it a miss. It's sort of fun, but the game's still teaching you stuff by mission 15. It really feels like a primer to go and play something else. The story's also a little bit all over the place. But yeah, Guilty Gear 2. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I heard horror stories about this game, but with the hindsight of knowing that we do get actual fighting games from Guilty Gear and this isn't just it, it's nice to go back and reflect on this game, see what it did well. I genuinely think if a company made a game like this and marketed it as a MOBA, it would do kind of decently. Obviously not as big as something like League, but, you know, I think there's a market here, personally. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you enjoy the new format. This was a pain in the ass to set up, by the way. I hope you enjoy the format, though. I want to try and do more videos like this because it's cool. And also, I like my face. I think I'm pretty handsome. I don't have the patron names on me right now. I'll make sure to fix that in the next video coming up. But here's a chance to plug my Patreon. If everything goes right, you guys should have got this video a couple days early. So if you want to see future videos from me, it's literally £1 a month. And you'll be able to see bigger projects like this right as I finish them, instead of waiting until Friday. It also just supports me. And if you go on the second tier, you can get your names on the end credits like this. Thank you to all these beautiful people. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Wondering why this video took longer than my usual stuff? I have a second channel video where I talk about that. Go check that out. Go buy GamerSupps. Streaming right now. Come to Twitch. Yeah. Thank you all for watching.